thanks very much for coming in to see us.
Thanks very much for having me.
I'd like to ask you a bit about the early stages of your life when you were growing up, how you got introduced to music, because I know that you come from a very musical family. Andy Dunn is your uncle, Paul O'Neill, a cousin of yours, well-known musicians in Cork. So were your parents musical themselves?
No, not at all. Like on my mum's side there's a few musicians. They all would have been encouraged to like have a song, you know. So they could be called to sing a tune at any second, like any of them had to be ready.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the way it was in my mum's family. My dad's family, I think they all love music for one reason or another, but none of them are involved in it, like, you know. But yeah, the Dunleys on my mum's side, a load of my uncles, they play guitar, and they might, or like, you know, a few of them, they might sing, they'd have a song, or like they play guitar, and that was kind of like, they might have found that to be a nice distraction, you know, from, I don't know.
Bit of crack and parties and that,
yeah, and then, my uncle Andrew, as we call him.
Yeah.
He was very good when I kind of started getting interested in music. He gave me my first 4-track tape recorder and, like, you know, a disc with like Cubase on it for me to figure out what that means, like, you know, these kind of things. And no one was too like pushy about it. I think my folks figured that if we wanted to do that, we'd find it ourselves. Because my mum knew that there could be pressure as well, you know, like you have to play an instrument now. And that, you know, you might end up having a completely different idea of what it is to you, like. So for me, it's always just something that I wanted to do. Or it ended up being that way. I can see from what they did, or how they did it, why I think of it like that, you know what I mean?
And what did you start on? What instrument? Guitar?
Yeah.
And were you
actually I played trombone first for like, say nearly a year, with Mayfield Brass Band. But I had no interest in playing brass band music whatsoever. The only, like, I kind of was listening to the specials and stuff, so I thought trombone, I was like, oh, it plays cool trombone stuff. But the fellow who was teaching me then was just like, no, you gotta learn these dots, you know. So I gave that up pretty quick. I quit the trombone to learn bass, but I didn't have the money for a bass, so I got a guitar.
Yeah.
And cash converters.
And what age would you have been at that stage?
I think it was 12 or something. And then I had my sister's karaoke machine I plugged it into. And if I turned up one of the volumes and turned down the other one, I could get distortion.
Yeah.
I figured that out.
Yeah.
That was nice. I wonder what it sounds like now, like. Probably the kind of things I'd be making now. Probably be good for that
sense,
sound.
So when you grew up then, did you go straight into college to study music, or did you? Yeah,
I was fairly set on doing that. Like, I wanted to go to college and I didn't want to study anything else, like. And I was in Mayfield Community School, and there was 6 of us in the music class. I was the only person that owned an instrument. So like my music teacher was really, really encouraging. Like, she was really good. Kind of just like, they were just like, well, if you do these few things, then you'll get on well in there, kind of thing. They were just like advice, preemptive advice for going into college. And then when I got in, I was delighted. Yeah. And I didn't tell anyone I was a guitar player when I got to college. Yeah. Because everybody plays guitar. So I was just like, no, I'm a jazz drummer. You know,
and you did your degree in the drum kit performance, was it?
I went to UCC and did the BMOS up there. And I did English and music for 3 years and then finished the BMOS with an extra year then. That was really good. It's really like the way that they teach up there is like everybody kind of teaches what they're interested in. Yeah. So I found that really good, because that's probably the best you're going to get out of people.
It's open, like, It's more fluid for learning anyway. Yeah. Yeah, it's very good. And what was your first gig then?
It was in the Spalpeen, and it was with a band called Hail Static Inn. That was the first band I was in.
Hail Static Inn.
Yeah.
I love all the names.
long story, short story kind of thing. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, it's very strange. But that was the first band I was in, played guitar and sang. And it's from friends of mine from up around Mayfield and the Glen, basically making mad kind of Radiohead noises.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a mad gig in Spalpeen. There was like this funk band on after us then, like we were playing that like dark stuff, like
Yeah.
trying to be strange, you know, and then this like really kind of like smiley punk band or funk band ran after us,
Yeah.
and it was really mad, like kind of in hindsight it's a good idea of what's to come, like.
It's often the phase though, isn't it? I remember all the young fellas I used to meet growing up, you know, they'd go for the heavy metal kind of
Yeah.
thing, and then they mature and they develop and whatever,
Yeah.
but it's a phase you had to go through almost,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
I'm kind of
Yeah.
going back through it now.
Yeah, yeah,
It's great.
yeah. In a whole different approach, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're involved in so many projects, I had to kind of write down some of them because I'd never remember
Yeah, I
everything.
have to do that as well.
Yeah. So you've got Hot Blooded Animals, the Bonk, the Great Balloon Race, Senior Infants, the Council for the Dark Arts, Not Earth, yeah. Cork Improvising Music Club, and of course Fixity. Tell
Yeah.
me first of all, how did Fixity come about?
Well, yeah, for like during all that time I was in college and kind of I wasn't writing any music. After that band, the Hill Static Inn that I played in the Spalpeen with, like that was from about the age 14 to about 18. I was playing with that band and just jamming with other people. And then in college, I just kind of figured like, all right, I'm a player, you know, I'm not really like a composer or I don't really have much interest in writing songs. Like, so like for 10 years I just played other people's music and helped them with that and learned from them and played loads in a professional capacity, learning from different people. And then eventually it was kind of like you hit a few walls where you're like, you kind of think, what how do I do it a way that I can be comfortable? Because usually when people are band leaders or they start a project, it's because they want to do it in such a way that suits their idea of how it should work.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't really finding that in other people's bands. Not all the time anyway.
Mm.
So I was kind of like, and the more you talk about something, the more you kind of realize it's your responsibility to do it, you know.
Yeah.
So it kind of came out of necessity in a way that I had to have something that was,
Your expression, like.
yeah, and just that it functioned in the way that I thought was nice.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
That makes sense, yeah.
And like the music then had to facilitate that rather than the other way around, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And even the approach of the music and how it's made has a lot to do with how I think people should operate in a musical situation, like, you know, so the kind of levels of interaction and a certain amount of openness and honesty and not being rude,
Yeah.
these kinds of things,
Yeah.
you know, unless it's funny or unless it's useful, you know,
Yeah.
like all these kind of rules, not rules but ideas, like.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to do something about it because I kept running into situations where it was like too challenging to feel comfortable, you know. So then I had these few tunes and they all kind of came out in about, after like 10 years not writing anything, they all kind of came out in about a month, like about 10 tunes, 8 or 10 tunes. And that was fairly mad. Then it was
How
just
do
like-
you approach writing in your composing? Are you going with a melody in your head, or are you starting, like, do you love reading? I presume you do you?
Reading?
Notation and all that?
Not really.
No?
No.
Was
Like-
that a chore for you, like when you were growing up in college?
Still
and that?
not too into it,
Really?
but I like
Yeah.
it as a way of passing on,
Yeah, yeah.
as in like
absolutely.
it's good to, it's a good way of communicating.
Documenting it. Yeah, yeah.
But like I was saying to someone recently, like if I was sitting here with you, I wouldn't pass you a letter to read.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how we'd have a conversation.
Yeah.
So, or I wouldn't like shuffle around and find the right response to what you're saying
Yeah.
from prepared things, you know, you kind of talk. and you think about it as you're doing it.
So
I
it kind of
prefer
goes
to work like
against
that.
it kind of goes against the improviser's nature, I suppose. Obviously,
Yeah.
so yeah, very good.
But it's a tool. It's a
Yeah.
really useful tool.
Mm.
Because you can give someone 4 bars of music and a short explanation, and you can make a half an hour out of that.
Mm.
You know, that's kind of how it works with my music. Is like there is some written stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just to let people know what ingredients are required, and then from there,
You can do anything.
if I catch anybody looking at the page while we're playing, like I know something's wrong.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. So where do you play? Because it's hard for original bands, of course, as
Yeah.
well in Cork. And do you travel much?
I do, yeah, as much as I can anyway.
You can, yeah.
Like with the Bank, there's a lot of stuff in Dublin or around the country. We've been playing. We did a tour with Percolator this summer, so that was great. I don't even know how many gigs we did, but it was a good few.
Yeah.
And with that band, I'm just traveling with a saxophone,
Mm.
so it's amazing.
That's a great feeling,
Yeah.
I would say, for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and like after, you know, sound check is like I'm done in like 10 minutes. And
It's
that,
too
and I
easy
don't know
for you.
what to do with myself because I'm so used to
All
setting
the
up
years
the
of
drums.
setting up the kit, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going bang,
yeah.
bang, bang, and the sound engineer saying nothing to you. And you're just still going bang. They're like, yeah, that's grand. Anyway,
So are you? I'm not very good with rules and institutions and authority and that.
good work.
So I don't like asking about category and styles. But are you a jazz musician? Is that primarily what you are?
No,
No, you
No.
don't see yourself that way at all.
no.
But yet you do play jazz a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you don't want to be in a category or style, or?
I think it would be silly for me
Yeah.
to call myself a jazz musician.
Mm. Because?
Like it does kind of, because I grew up in Mayfield, in the north side of Cork City, and that's like a completely different world from
yeah.
like the cultural context that would give me like, I don't know, let's say, for want of a better expression, the right to say that I was a jazz musician.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, I don't really have enough. I don't have the interest in dedicating my life to like some very specific tradition,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that would be a bit counterproductive. And I love jazz,
Mm-hmm.
but jazz is something they called this music that I love after the fact, you know.
So it's kind of a process as well. As
Yeah,
the style.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the approach of jazz music, you can find in different places, you know, and all the ingredients that are in there, the rhythms and like a lot of vocabulary, you can find them in different cultures. They're like, jazz is just a really good kind of sponge that takes in all these other cultures and explores them together.
Yeah.
And it's always kind of been that. And that approach I love. And I love to swing.
Yeah.
Feels great.
Yeah.
And like I really enjoy playing it, but I kind of have this feeling of wanting to be now, you know, and it makes me not really want to write any swing music or
Yeah.
stuff like that, you know. I'd kind of rather have a recognizably not American approach,
Mm-hmm.
because like maybe when I was kind of maybe like early 20s or something, I started to find out about all this European jazz, improvised music that was based more on folk music. It's based more on rather than using the blues as a guidework, as a like framework,
Yeah.
they kind of, in Scandinavia, in Norway in particular, through the 60s and 70s, there was this scene of building on the vocabulary that they were surrounded by, which was more folk
Yeah.
influence. And then that's really stretched out over the last 40 years or so, to the point where now it's like its own tradition of jazz, and we only call it jazz for convenience sake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just melodies, chords, and then freedom.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas there's a lot of stuff you might call improvised music, which kind of by definition there wouldn't be a whole lot of tunes like compositions.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of tunes, but not a lot of pre-decided ones. You know.
But talking about improvisation, for somebody like a very simple musician, say, right? When you get up on stage, as you said, you have a few bars ready and they have a direction from that. So are you starting, is the drummers taking it off and you lead? Or
it depends on the tune.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about Fixity, there's usually, as part of the composition, it will be decided who would start, or else it's completely flexible, so we can just come up with how we're going to do it right then and there.
Okay.
So I'm kind of always making sure that, as a band leader, I'm always making sure that we don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And are you like that, so that we have enough understanding of the compositions and what it requires for it to be a certain mood or a certain tune. Once we have those parts learned, from there we should be discovering, you know. So it's kind of like I might just say, okay, let's start this one with keys and sax, and the next night it might just start with drums. The next night it might just start with bass solo or something, you know. And like that.
So the flexibility is always there, yeah.
And that you'd learn from seeing really good jazz, like bands, even just playing standards. You know, like they know the repertoire. It's all very familiar, so they barely even have to play the tune, and you can hear it. You know, you might be able to recognize that it's like a certain standard, even though they hint at it. They're just hinting at it.
Yeah, I think your music was described. I picked this up somewhere that Fixity is a band that explores repetition and textural movement.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting in itself, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a bit of a fascination with repetition, but I find it fascinating in that it doesn't exist. I don't think it exists.
Yeah.
So you can't repeat two moments.
Yeah.
So by definition, if you're trying to repeat a bar of music,
It's
you're
going to
not.
be different. Yeah.
You know, like or at least I'm choosing to see it this way. I think it's fun.
It's interesting. Yeah.
But like, so if I'm to play, just like 4 bars of a beat.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Like so. If I just go like, so I'm going to play what would look like the exact same thing on a piece of paper.
Okay.
Like. Right, so that's like that.
Yeah.
16 times.
Yeah.
So am I playing the same thing 16 times, or is it
very
slightly different every time?
Very good.
So I'm kind of always trying to highlight that, and kind of sneak it into the music, maybe.
Yeah.
Like so people, because you can relate to something if you feel like it's repeating. It like establishes this kind of, makes you comfortable.
So
and then if you realize like 3 minutes later that you haven't heard the same thing twice at all, it's kind of fun. You know, it's kind of will make you listen further.
Are you, as a person, then like this? You know, exploring and always kind of looking for something new and different and very flexible. Are you as a person like that?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's how you're applying yourself to music. So I wonder. Yeah. We can ask some of the audience afterwards, maybe.
I kind of figure like when I play music, that's me.
Yeah.
This is
you expressing yourself, and that's
like when I'm talking and walking around the place, that's some other stuff.
Yeah.
But like when I'm playing music, that's like
that's really you. Yeah. That's cool. So what would you say excites you about music? And it could be about an instrument, or it could be music in general, gigs and so on, or recording or anything. And what pisses you off about music? So it's quite a broad question.
What I love about music is the feeling of peace in there. Like, so it's not necessarily peace, actually. It's more, I don't know, it's kind of, I make it a very serious place for myself. To like go into that place and play music is like really, really, I take it very seriously. Yeah. So I'm going to work myself up into a frenzy, like. And then while it's happening, I don't think about anything else in the whole universe.
Which is brilliant. And so it's therapeutic, obviously, for you. It's very good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, it's like, is it good for me? It's really good for me because it lets me be who I am, you know, or like lets me think out loud in a welcoming environment, ideally in a welcoming environment. So that's kind of like what I was talking about earlier, setting up these ideal environments where you can just hang out, you know, and be and feel welcome about that. So that's my favorite thing about it, is just being able to like be trusted. And beyond that, I mean, be happy to do it behind a curtain, like, you know. What I hate about music is when it's not like that.
So are you somebody who doesn't, are you saying that you don't like the limelight as such, or like when you say behind a curtain, do you mean that in a literal sense, that you don't like being up in front? Because in Bonk, for instance, you're playing the sax and you often are up front on stage. Is that uncomfortable for you?
It's not, because I kind of just turn my back and dance with my friends.
Okay.
And like, I just make sure that we're in our own world or something. These people are invited to experience it with us and enjoy it with us. But I definitely had a weird time a few years back, thinking like, from playing in like quite small rooms, like you get up from behind the drum kit and like you're already standing next to someone and talking, you know, and that kind of thing, or like just kind of something got into my head about like how people are looking at you when you play music, and I just got really weird. I was just like, why, you know, in one context it might be like, why aren't they dancing? Like, everybody's just looking at us play this like really,
everybody's all facing
you know,
up to you,
like looking at you standing still, going like, wow, this is really funky. You know, that's strange, because people think they're supposed to look at bands, and like sometimes it's really boring, and you should kind of, I don't know, you know, that's what I think. But and then other times it's because like, I think it was because just getting really deep into improvising, it's kind of like maybe a little bit vulnerable to be doing that in front of people. Because you're at the edge of your ability the whole time, and you're trying to keep up with yourself and the world, like out loud. And that's a mad thing to kind of just start talking to people about straight away, or like catch someone's eye when they're, you know, when you're doing it, or like, and you're totally in outer space playing, and suddenly you kind of wake up and realize people are watching you. It's kind of, I don't know, I don't really, it doesn't really come into my head too much, but it's definitely something I had to figure out a while back. It was like,
I like that, actually, the idea of the vulnerability of it. It kind of makes me think sometimes when I see guys improvising like that, I think of maybe soccer players all keeping the ball up, you know, and then suddenly there's a Ronaldo kind of emerges out of it, like. But the pressure of it, though, it must be something else as well. But you're obviously really used to it now at this stage, because with the Cork Improvising Club. So you curate that, like, as such. So you bring musicians over from. Well, I'm not sure how that happens, but you have worked with Swedish musicians and that. So how did that come about?
My friends Emil Nørstrand and Evelina Gustafsson.
Say the second name?
Gustafsson. But they moved to Cork for a year, like I think about 7 years ago now. And about 5 months in, I met them and couldn't believe how easy it was to make music with them. And then that kind of just that struck up like a relationship that hasn't ended, and there's no end in sight, really. And there's kind of this growing connection between here and Malmo because of that. Like, there's a really great creative music scene in Malmo, and it just managed to touch base with it. And now it's a thing where there's a load of those guys coming over in a few weeks, and we go over when we can. And the first Fixity record is me and 3 Swedish guys. It was recorded in Malmo. But with the Improvised Music Club, that was great at the time, because like that means that you meet someone like that, and you have a place where you can play. You can find out how to play together.
So there's a core group, and then people can fall in?
The way we used to run it was there was a residency every month. So you'd play Thursday night every week for 4 weeks in a row. And that way there'd be a chance for groups to kind of progress over a month and find out what was going on. And it's usually new combinations of people. And that was really good, because we did about a year and a half or a year of residencies, and loads of new bands came out of it, and like a lot of relationships were struck up through improvisation, you know. That still now exists, like in there. It's really great to see. And nowadays it's like it's once a month in the Roundy, and there's 2 acts, and there's a lot of improvised music in Ireland, and a lot of experimental music that kind of calls itself noise or calls itself experimental music, but it's improvised music, you know. Actually,
just on that point, you know, when you said noise, because like definitely we all will say that there's music in everything, like a raindrop or different things, like it could be a bucket or whatever. Like, are you constantly listening? Are you constantly hearing music when you're moving around?
Nah.
No? Doesn't get like that, no?
I'd be singing tunes.
I'd love to hear that. I'd love to think that you were.
Yeah, no. No, I'd be singing tunes in my head. Like.
Yeah.
But that's different.
Yeah.
Birds, like they're singing songs.
Birds do it for you.
Yeah, I wouldn't be. I had a class in UCC with Danny McCarthy, and I did it for a few weeks, and then I ended up changing modules. At the time, it was a deep listening class, and I was losing it, because we'd go into the class and we'd do nothing for like 20 minutes, and like in hindsight, I totally understand what he was up to. It's the kind of thing that I try and encourage people to do, but at the time, I was just like,
what's going on?
I just didn't get it, you know. He was talking about these kind of like outdoor noises and just listening to the world, and it's beautiful. I've a huge appreciation for that, and when, you know, there's times that I'll actively do that, but it's not how I'm walking around the place. I'm usually figuring out some tune, or
I see you going around the city constantly, and I know you're going to gigs, and so I love when I see you. Like, I love, there he is now off to another gig, especially because you've got so much going on. But talk to me about Senior Infants, because that's quite different then again, I think, isn't it?
Which I can't tell you anything about Senior Infants.
No? Really?
Yeah.
Okay then. I'll accept that. So can you do, one thing I would ask you as well though, in all of this you're teaching as well, are you?
Yeah.
So, you know, when you hear the guy going up on stage and he's playing, he's a fantastic player, he's up on stage and you can tell he's really, really practiced, but you can tell that you can tell by his style that he's a serious scale head, you know. He's constantly at home playing the scales, and it's good, but I feel that it's, like, how do you teach people not to, there's a difference, there's an edge there, where you're working hard, you're practicing all the time, but the freedom that you're talking about, you know, to the feel of it, like, you know. How do you get that across, and how do you teach it?
I think when I'm teaching people, it might actually be more dramatic than I give it credit for, like how different it is to other teachers that they might have had.
Yeah.
I kind of was realising that recently, just like some of the things I'd get people to do might be frustratingly simple, you know, and I'm just trying to get them to listen, you know, or kind of just letting people know that they're allowed to do things as well, and that technique is, like, technique not being the end of the story is probably, I'd cover that in the first lesson, you know, and not wanting to hear the practice, you know. I don't want to hear the practice.
Yeah.
I want to hear music always, and, you know, like, I don't know. I think I really believe it, so it probably comes out of me in a few different ways. Like, I'm usually encouraging people to be themselves, and like, you can't tell someone who they are because you don't know. because they might not even know yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you just have to try and let it
It's the
come
beginning
out of
like,
them, and give enough information for them to be able to follow an interest and get passionate. You know, I think a bad teacher is someone who makes you feel like you're doing it for them, and then avoiding that is kind of very important to me. And then if you focus on people feeling like they're doing it for themselves, you have the opportunity to learn as much from them as they can from you. You know, because as they're discovering something, you get to help them out along the way.
Yeah.
That's really, really nice. Like.
Yeah. And do you see that point of learning as a teacher as well?
Oh
like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's big time, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it otherwise.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, when I was teaching a few years ago, it was much harder because I wasn't really looking for that out of it. I was kind of like, I don't know, needed the money, wanted to do a few lessons, so it would work out. And because I wasn't thinking about what I was learning from it.
Yeah.
Didn't really feel the
frustrating.
value of it.
Yeah.
But now I think, given the music that I'm kind of known for now, people won't really come to me if they want to learn how to play like industry standards, session chops, that stuff.
But like, do you go through the motions, obviously, of teaching all the rudiments, like, and no, not necessarily.
No.
I love the rudiments, like.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, but
I mean, it's a whole. I'm not a drummer, so it doesn't matter. But
like I've gone through them. I still practice them. But people can find that themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
They really can.
Yeah, they can
You can get a
work
book
on
off the
it,
shelf,
yeah,
and
exactly.
you got the rudiments. And like, I can help you not hurt yourself while you're playing rudiments.
Yeah.
And that's really important. And it is like, I work through them with all my students. I'm always working through them, but I'm not, like, there's kind of rudimental approaches where everything you would do is based on rudiments, and it's based on what you learned from rudiments. But the thing about breaking music up into those small parts is they invented rudiments for marching drummers to try and just catalogue all of the vocabulary that's used on a snare drum. So again, that's something that comes after the fact. So rudiments are music broken up into tiny parts to learn. So if you learn some music, you're going to learn a lot of rudiments, you know. And if you, like, I'd go through the way I teach drums. I usually start when the drums are invented, and the instrument gets more sophisticated over about 120 years. So it's a good timeline to teach by.
Yeah.
So at the start, it was like influenced by tap dancing and just like snare drum technique, marching rhythms, and so I start with that stuff.
So it's kind of understanding music generally as well. And
the tradition is really important.
So you're not contained, kind of thing. So what kind of music do you listen to? So yourself, do you have time to listen to music with all your projects that I can't mention some of them?
I make time to listen to music.
Yeah.
It's part of my job, I think.
Yeah.
I think
so what do you listen
a musician who doesn't spend as much time as they possibly can listening is a fraud.
Yeah.
You know.
But sometimes, you know, a musician has been doing this for so long, they get to a stage where it's just second nature to them, and they go off. And I know a few musicians like that who have been playing for 30 years, you know. And I've actually stopped listening to music as well. The only music I listen to is actual local artists.
Yeah,
I don't listen to anybody else. You know?
Like silence is important to me as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I get wrecked from listening. But it's I'm trying to be active about it when I am listening. So when I put on a record, that's what I'm doing. I'm not putting on a record because I'm doing something else. And what I listen to lots of John Coltrane.
Oh yeah.
And lots of the MC5 at the moment, and a lot of different stuff. Like when I want to like chill out, I listen to really crazy free jazz that's people going nuts for like 40 minutes straight, and that really soothes me. And then recently a lot of hip hop, just different things, like whatever comes to me, but the consistent thing really is I'm always listening to John Coltrane, like every day. like probably 1 or 2 of his albums every day, and that helps me out. Like
I saw something on Facebook there recently about some composer who he challenged himself to not listen to music for a year or something. If you had to do that, what would happen to you? Not just listen, but if you weren't playing, supposing you were taken off to some island and you know, had no access to any instrument, you'd probably create something probably, but what would it do to you, do you think?
that would be hell for me. I'd really hate that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even like to challenge that.
Yeah.
I'd have no interest.
Don't
in
even
it.
think about that.
No, that would make me sad. It would make me really sad. That's what I do.
Okay. You know the drummer Art Taylor.
Yeah.
I love him, and he said that the trumpet speaks to him more than any other instrument on stage. Something like that. I can't remember exactly what he said, but. So what is for you? What are you connecting to? I like you. Have you somebody you're looking to all the time as a drummer? Like, do you turn to the bass player and do you kind of hit off each other?
In the band, you mean?
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, in the band situation.
Yeah. It's usually, it depends really. I'm really drawn to melody, so the melody instrument gets me.
Yeah.
Like the sax player, if that's what it is. Whoever's playing the melody. I'm usually focused on that, and the bass players I work with, I usually have a fairly close relationship with it as well, like, and that's really good because you can just operate as a unit, the two of you, and you can communicate musically, you know, and like a slight move of an eyebrow will let you know that the guy's excited about what you just did, or you know, something very subtle things, and you're kind of in like, I mean, some of the old jazz guys, they're like, yeah, you're in the engine room. That's what they call it. You know? So when you're playing drums, bass, or anyone in the rhythm section, you're like in that supportive place, but you're also always trying to keep them listening, always trying to excite people. So there's kind of like in jazz, there's like a frontline rhythm section separation, where the people who play the melody, and there's people who play the rhythms and the chords. That really kind of hit home when I was learning about that stuff, because it gives kind of these lines of communication that are really clear, and there's a tradition to it. Once there's a tradition to something, then you can start messing with it. You know.
And you know, I think it's interesting what you said there about you kind of look at someone, they raise the eyebrow, and you know where they're coming from. So you're kind of developing a relationship as well, getting to know a person really interestingly as well, aren't you? And probably deeper than you would generally, I would imagine, because you're almost anticipating each other's thinking, and
or you're trying to kind of catch each other out, or just kind of be messing.
Yeah, it's cool.
You're thinking so quickly when you're improvising.
Yeah.
You're not, or like, I mean, when you speak, you're thinking while you do it. And that's like, there's a very, very short amount of time between the thought and the word. And ideally, when you're improvising, I think the better you are at improvising, the smaller that gap is.
Yeah.
Where the thought and the decision is made at the same time as the action. And it's informed enough for you to actually create something that excites your fellow musicians, and from there then it goes out to the audience, you know.
Yeah.
But it's trying to keep everybody interested. Like, it's fun when you're playing jazz, you can really, from the drums, you can hear a lot, because you're strictly dealing with time. So then you can listen out for how everybody's playing their chords and their melody, and you can listen out for anybody getting distracted, maybe, and you could throw them something that's gonna make sure that they can't stop listening. Yeah. You know. So
you can kind of read faces, like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just thinking that, like, you know, you'd know when a person isn't tuned in, like, obviously.
Yeah, if someone gets distracted, we usually do something to
throw them, throw it up. And
well, to make them listen, you know, because, like, I'm listening. Yeah. You know, obviously, like, I space out as well, like, you know, but when I'm on it, like, I'm just really trying to keep everybody on the team, like.
And a while ago I asked you what you love about music, but what do you love in the kit? What sound, what do you love to happen, like? Do you get me, like?
Yeah. Cymbals are great, because when you hit a cymbal, it's like it plays
immediate.
it plays every note that you can hear all at once. Just that, like there's so much to them, and there's a guy called Max Roach, and I really love what he did with the drums. Is just like kind of started exploring them as a melodic instrument, you know, so playing time, playing rhythms, and trying to suggest melodies with them, and like that, if we can call that a sound on the drums, like that's probably one of the biggest things that hit me. Like,
will you play a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. We want to hear him play, don't we?
Yeah. So I'll start with Max Roach used to play drum solo drum pieces. Like, he was one of the first people to start recording just solo drums and putting them on his albums as tracks.
Yeah.
And he had a few on an album called Drums Unlimited. And they're usually dedicated to drummers that he studied. So I'll dedicate this to Max Roach.
Very good, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool, very cool, isn't it? I love it. The conversation kind of thing going on. Yeah, it's brilliant. And you're a multi-instrumentalist, so you're playing the sax, the fife, and the saxophone as well. You play soprano sax, is it? Yeah. And the tenor and alto, no?
I just recently started kind of trying out alto and tenor.
Yeah.
But I kind of made a promise to myself when I started playing soprano that would be my main saxophone, because usually people, they're tenor players and they have a soprano and they double on that. But I just wanted to focus on one of them being the main voice, and I just loved the sound of it.
Oh, I do too. I used to have an
Yeah.
L-cart soprano.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was useless at it, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
loved it. I love
Yeah.
the tone, like
Yeah.
it's just so sweet, like. But
It's all
What-
about being okay with sounding terrible for a while.
yeah,
You know, you
definitely.
can learn anything then. Like, yeah.
When I was growing up, my mother used to leave the house all the time, like so. But so like, you're also playing the guitar, the bass. What's you see yourself as a drummer, I suppose, do you?
Yeah.
And how much time then do you get to give to all the other instruments, considering you're doing so many things?
Well, yeah, I carry the sax around the house, like.
Mhm.
So when I'm doing jobs around the house, or like,
Yeah.
when I'm at home,
When you're
I've
cleaning
got
and all that,
yeah,
like,
or
yeah.
like yeah. When I've got the sax, or when I'm at home, I have the saxophone
Yeah.
next to me,
Yeah,
and that's like something that you cannot do with drums.
yeah.
Do you know?
Obviously, yeah.
Like, I've been lucky enough to live in a few places where I can play drums,
Mm.
but I mean, it's not really. Yeah, there's something about even guitar. You know, you can just have it on the couch,
Mhm.
pick it up, figure out a bit of the tune that you're listening to.
Mhm.
Sax is really great for that. So I'm always just, I hear something and then I just grab sax and I want to figure out that little
Yeah.
bit. And then
You play the clarinet as well?
no.
I don't know where I got that
Yeah,
from.
soprano. It's the straight
Yeah,
soprano.
yeah.
Yes.
I might have mixed that up actually.
Yeah.
And so, will you play something on that for us,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah. This is a Jimmy Crowley song.
Yeah,
Johnny Jump Up.
Yeah.
you know, thing.
yeah. I'm amazed by that now.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I was expecting.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Apparently my grandmother used to sing it
Yeah,
at sessions.
yeah,
She never touched a drop of drink in her life.
yeah.
It's all about the dangers.
I think that was the best Johnny jump up I've heard. That's brilliant. I was thinking while you're playing, you must be very fit because you're getting a workout on the kit, and then with the lungs, with the wooden instrument as well. Like, yeah,
I think lifting the drums is.
Yeah, it's probably the thing actually. Yeah.
That's the only exercise I get.
Yeah. Also, you play the fife. I'll get you to play that in a second. But tell me a little bit about what you're up to, because Not Earth is another current project as well. So. And the Great Balloon Race, is that still happening?
Yeah,
I love that band.
Yeah,
Brilliant. Yeah. And are you with them from the beginning?
No, the lads are from Mayo.
Yeah.
Marcus and Jonathan, the two guitar players, and Paddy Cullen, who plays bass the Altered Hours. Now he was the bass. The three of them started the band, and that was a long time ago. And I met them maybe 7 years ago or something like that. I knew Paddy a few years before that, but so I've been playing with them pretty much since then.
Yeah.
And then Declan O'Shea came in on bass. That's going to be an ongoing band forever. Like I think it's
I was
kind
just
of
thinking
I'm always just saying like, we'll be 70.
Yeah.
And it'll be the Balloon Race, you know. So that's nice because we can.
Do you play festivals and things, or how do you get your gigs?
We don't play much.
Yeah.
We don't play much, but we have. Anytime we meet up, we end up with about 10 new songs.
Yeah.
So we're planning to record 2 albums soon. We just need a week together.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of music kind of piled up.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So the last album, Gently Gently, that's a few years ago now that came out. But yeah, we're always kind of steadily living and working away on the Balloon Race.
Yeah.
And we check in every so often, and it just exists, you know. It's not like one of those things that you kind of like, oh, I just haven't heard from lads in a few weeks. That might not be a band anymore. You know, it's not like that. It's just like living thing. Yeah. It's great.
So you've loads going on, all of you anyway.
Yeah.
The Council for the Dark Arts then?
Yeah.
What's that? What's going on there?
That's
Caroline Goodwin is in that, is it?
She played with us on our first show.
Yeah.
It was great. That was the last improvised music club in Gulp. So we packed 18 musicians into Gulp. Yeah. And had an orchestra for ourselves.
Yeah.
And initially it was kind of a celebration of that. And then it had to be a project that was going to go further because I think we all found a lot from it. So that's kind of something I'm interested in developing. It's having a large group like that of 17 or 18 musicians and trying to cultivate like a disciplined improvisational approach. That's a huge challenge, you know. So I'm really fascinated by that.
But you like that, yeah?
Yeah,
like the challenge.
Yeah, and I think like it's about time that Ireland had something like that. I mean, like there's these improvised music orchestras pop up in Europe and they pop up in the States.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely been a few attempts. But I'm really interested in just having something like that happening, you know, and like hopefully that'll outlive us, you know, so that'll be hopefully one of these orchestras that has completely different people in it in like 50 years time, but it's still that, you know. That's kind of the plan, is to just cultivate something like that, because these things exist and it's possible. So I think it's important. There's a lot of improvisers in Ireland right now, and in Cork, and a lot of people are willing to experiment, and it would be an awful shame to not try and harvest some of that momentum, you know. Yeah. So we're going to do as much as possible with that. Need to just.
So you're caring for the future of music in your own way as well, obviously. You care about that, like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you want to leave nice things around for people to find.
Yeah.
You know, that's part of my practice, I think.
I always want more people to pay respect and care for the talent that's here as well.
Yeah.
You know, I really wish everybody kind of got on board in that way and buying albums
Yeah.
and like so easy, like just to download an album for €5 or €6 and
a lot of people just want to be entertained.
Yeah,
you know, and
fast. Yeah.
that's okay,
Yeah.
I think. But when you're deep into music and you're deep into that side of culture, you might be like, why aren't they? Why isn't everybody into like squawky experimental improvised music that goes on for an hour?
Yeah.
You know, you kind of wake up going, oh yeah.
Yeah.
You can be listening to that in the office all day.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? Or you could, but not everybody.
Yeah, yeah. I get it, yeah. So I'm just wondering, does anybody have a hard question for Dan? T, would you like to ask a question? Yeah.
I was thinking, you know, when you have an instrument in your hand and when you're sitting at the kit, would you say you feel more safe or secure, just in general?
Yeah.
The kit makes him, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point, yeah.
When you're just around instruments,
Yeah,
you feel
for sure, yeah.
comfortable with your surroundings.
The good thing about drums is that you are literally behind something. So like
The line of defense.
Yeah, that definitely has an effect, because when I started playing bass or sax, I was suddenly standing up on stage and like kind of within reach or something. And that's very strange. And it makes me a bit edgy, you know. But yeah, it's definitely the safest place I know is to be playing. You know, sitting at an instrument is nice, but doing it is that's the real safety, like.
Anybody else like to ask him a question? They're shy.
You're always asking me questions.
Not on the spot though. Maybe you play the 5 for us, would you?
Yeah.
Thanks, Tia.
Yeah. It's by a Norwegian singer called Karen Krog. Just kind of like folk, jazz, improvised music lady. It's amazing.
Hey. Trouble.
Little plastic 5.
That's so different then again, like what drew you to the 5?
It was €15.
Yeah.
And I really
Yeah.
wanted to just because. Yeah, I mean, it just made sense. I
Yeah.
don't know. When I started playing sax, I just started seeing wind instruments everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
You
of
know,
course.
and it was an opportunity to have a flute,
Mhm.
but it was really small and really cheap. And
But what, like, yeah, can you apply yourself to piccolo just it's like that?
I could now because I'm after learning
Yeah, because.
classical or like silver flute,
Mhm.
and that's a fife,
Yeah.
but with that finger. So, but there's this interview with John Coltrane, and he's talking about how he spends his days with music, and he's like, okay, I've got a tenor sax in the living room on top of the piano, keep the soprano somewhere else, and then by the bed I keep my flute, because you can lie down and play the flute.
Yeah.
So then that's what I thought of when I saw that.
Mhm.
It's just
You
like,
take it anywhere.
yeah, well, just first thing in the morning,
Yeah.
pick
it
up the flute,
Wow.
and I got that,
That's amazing.
and
Yeah.
I've every day almost since then. That's what I've done before talking,
Yeah.
you know, and it's
I'm
really.
thinking about your flatmates there when you say that.
Yeah. Flute is not the worst. You know,
Yeah.
flute,
Oh, absolutely.
flute's okay. Like
Yeah.
it's the other stuff.
I
that
think
worry
like
about.
I could see you when you were playing there. I could imagine you out at the loch, standing by the lake, and everybody going around doing their whatever, and
Yeah.
just hearing this, you know, this lovely sound.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd be up in Mayfield GA pitches.
yeah. I'd like you to finish off with playing the drums again, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
and just do whatever you feel like for as long as you feel like. Please stay here. Thanks, everybody, and thanks a million,
Shana.
Dan.
It's a pleasure.
Cheers.
Nice one.
Thanks. Would you do something just on the snare?
Huh?
Would you do something with the snare, showing me the
Just the
sound?
snare?
Showing me
Yeah.
the different things you get from the snare?
Yeah.
Even though I know we were finishing there, but we're in the library, like.
Yeah.
Drums in the library is very important, like.
Yeah. Well, I'll just try and do something just
Yeah.
on the snare. You know, I play brushes.
Yeah, brushes on the snare. Cool. I love it. Thanks a million, Dan. That's brilliant. We could have talked for ages, obviously, but we're running out of time, unfortunately. Anyway, thanks a million, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sheena.
That was cool.